Sarah Ferguson has lived through storms that would have destroyed anyone else. She has been laughed at, pushed out, dragged through scandal, quietly forgiven, and then forgotten again. And every single time, she survived. Not loudly, not gracefully, but stubbornly. And that's what makes her dangerous now, because according to people who know her well, she's done playing the quiet fool. Behind closed doors, whispers are growing louder that Sarah Ferguson, the woman the palace learned to underestimate, is preparing a move no one ever expected. A tell-all. Not the glossy, harmless kind, but the kind that drags old ghosts back into the light. The kind that doesn't rely on rumor, but memory. And at the center of it all sits one name that makes courtiers uneasy: Meghan Markle. This isn't about petty jealousy. This isn't about rivalry. This is about recognition. Those close to Fergie say she isn't interested in recycling tabloid headlines or repeating things everyone already knows. What she's holding on to is far more explosive. The story of Meghan before the palace, before Harry, before the fairy tale, the version of Meghan that existed in elite back rooms, private lounges, and whisper-only spaces where power doesn't announce itself. And Fergie was there. She watched it happen. She recognized the faces, the introductions, the strategy, because she had once played the same game herself. And when Meghan finally secured her place beside Prince Harry, something unexpected happened. Sarah reached out, not as competition, not as a threat, but with expectation, acknowledgement, loyalty, at least recognition. They shared history. They shared circles. They shared moments from Meghan's early climb that very few people knew about. And yet, Meghan didn't respond. No callback, no acknowledgement, nothing. According to insiders, she behaved as if she had outgrown the very people who witnessed her beginnings. And for Sarah Ferguson, that silence wasn't small. It wasn't forgettable. It cut deep. Because Fergie understands betrayal better than most. She has been discarded by the palace more times than she can count. But this wasn't about titles. This wasn't about status. It was about erasure, being treated as if she never mattered. And that was the moment a quiet observer became a liability. This wasn't a feud built on envy. It was built on familiarity. Fergie saw herself in Meghan, ambitious, strategic, hungry for advancement. The difference? Meghan believed she was the only one who knew how to climb. And in royal life, you don't walk away from someone like Sarah Ferguson without consequences. You don't erase a witness and expect silence forever. As whispers of a possible tell all began circulating, the palace didn't respond with unity. It fractured. Those close to the inner circle say King Charles is deeply uneasy, not because he fears drama, but because he knows exactly how much Fergie has seen. She lived through the scandals, the deals, the behind-the-curtain arrangements involving Prince Andrew. If she speaks freely, shadows long buried could crawl back into public view. That's why, according to sources, Charles is willing to soften, to negotiate, to make quiet concessions, not out of weakness, but caution. He understands the danger of a woman who remembers everything. But Prince William is different. Insiders say he refuses to bend. He has no history tied to Fergie, no secrets she can expose, no leverage she can use. To him, rewarding someone for holding private knowledge feels like surrender. So he stands firm, unmoved, unbothered, and unwilling to show fear. And caught between those two opposing forces sits Meghan. Because here's the uncomfortable truth, the palace doesn't need to protect her. And that's where her danger begins. Over time, whispers grew darker, more specific, more damaging. Claims from circles tied to Meghan's early social life suggest Harry was never the original target, that her ambitions once reached higher, that Prince Andrew may have been viewed as a possible pathway into royal proximity. If true, it changes everything. It means Harry wasn't plan A, he was plan B. And then there's another whisper, this one from someone who allegedly knew Meghan long before the palace. A longtime friend of Harry reportedly warned him, claiming he recognized her from yacht party circles, from gatherings where wealthy men, models, and social climbers mingled far from cameras. These aren't stories printed in magazines, they're whispered in expensive rooms by people who saw things firsthand. And every single whisper overlaps with Sarah Ferguson's world. That's what frightens Meghan most. Not strangers talking, but Fergie confirming what others only hint at, filling in the gaps, naming the rooms, naming the people. Because Sarah Ferguson isn't reckless. She's patient. She has been called messy, wild, uncontrolled. But people forget the most important part, she survives. And survival teaches one powerful skill the palace never once acknowledged, how to stay quiet while remembering everything. Those who know her say Fergie is not someone you use and discard. People who turn their backs on her eventually learn she doesn't stay silent forever. She saw Meghan before the world did. She watched the circles she moved in, the introductions she received, not with judgment, but recognition. because she had once done the same thing. Some even claim Fergie quietly helped early on. A word here, a door opened there, guidance offered when it mattered. And that's why Meghan's decision to distance herself later became her greatest mistake. Because Fergie isn't just a former duchess, she's evolved. And to understand Meghan's rise, you have to understand Soho House. This wasn't a cafe. It wasn't a hotel lounge. It was a world where deals happened quietly, careers were shaped in shadows, and access mattered more than talent. Insiders say Soho House was Meghan's real launchpad. Not Hollywood, not auditions. This was where the right people noticed her, where introductions happened that couldn't be arranged alone, where she wasn't wandering, she was being positioned. And Fergie knew that world intimately. Behind that curtain stood two gatekeepers. Marcus Anderson, the man who decided who sat where and who met whom, and Ron Burkle, whose wealth and connections opened doors most never even knew existed. Together, they shaped the environment around Meghan. They curated access. They built pathways far beyond acting scripts and red carpets. And Fergie knew them, knew the rules, knew the arrangements, which is why the palace fears what she might confirm. Now, Sarah Ferguson stands at a crossroads. Her protection is gone. Her favor has faded. And a woman with nothing left to lose becomes unpredictable. She has survived humiliation, mockery, exile. Headlines don't scare her. Outrage doesn't stop her. And now she holds something more valuable than royal invitations. She holds Meghan's real story, not the polished fairy tale, the one that began in quiet rooms guided by powerful hands, moving from Soho House to private flights to carefully curated introductions until a prince finally entered the frame. Sources say Fergie can trace every step, every connection, every calculated move. And Meghan knows that if she ever speaks freely, the fairy tale doesn't just crack, it collapses. Because in every kingdom, secrets decide who rises and who falls. And when those secrets finally leave the shadows, they don't just reveal the truth. They choose a victim. And according to those closest to her, Sarah Ferguson may finally be ready to speak. And the most unsettling part for Meghan is not the noise outside the palace walls, it's the silence inside them. Because silence in royal life is never empty. It's loaded. It means calculations are being made. It means people are deciding who is worth protecting and who is expendable. Those close to the situation say Meghan feels that shift, the subtle cooling. Invitations that don't come, messages that go unanswered, smiles that don't reach the eyes. In a world where status is everything, indifference is the sharpest punishment of all. And she knows exactly why it's happening, because Sarah Ferguson hasn't even spoken yet. She hasn't gone on television. She hasn't leaked chapters. She hasn't whispered to friendly journalists. All she has done is exist quietly, patiently, while people around the palace start asking themselves an uncomfortable question. What does Fergie know? And that question alone is enough to make powerful men nervous. People forget that Sarah Ferguson was never just a background character. She wasn't merely Andrew's embarrassing ex, she was inside the machine. She saw how deals were smoothed over, how reputations were protected, how certain women were ushered forward while others were quietly erased. She learned how narratives are built and how easily they can be dismantled. That's why those close to her say she doesn't need exaggeration. She doesn't need speculation. Her weapon is memory, dates, faces, rooms, the kind of details that make denials sound hollow. And Meghan knows this because Meghan understands strategy. She understands how fragile an image really is. She spent years constructing one carefully, deliberately, choosing what the public would see and what it would never know. The polished interviews, the carefully worded victimhood, the curated empowerment, every step controlled. But Sarah Ferguson doesn't operate on press releases, she operates on lived experience. And the fear inside Meghan's camp isn't about one story, it's about sequence. Because once the first door opens, others don't stay closed for long. One confirmation leads to another, one memory unlocks 10 more. And suddenly, the narrative Meghan worked so hard to seal becomes porous. This is why insiders say Meghan has tried to distance herself even further, to pretend Sarah Ferguson doesn't exist, to act as if the past is irrelevant now that she's built something new. But in royal circles, pretending someone doesn't exist is often the fastest way to remind everyone that they do, especially when that someone has nothing left to lose. And Fergie knows exactly how this ends because she has lived it before. She knows how the palace closes ranks when it feels threatened. She knows how allies disappear when survival is at stake. She knows how quickly yesterday's friend becomes today's liability. But here's the difference this time. She's not asking for acceptance. She's not asking for forgiveness. She's not even asking to be welcomed back. She's simply standing still and letting the pressure build. Those close to Meghan say that's what terrifies her most. Not an attack, but patience. Because patience suggests confidence. It suggests someone knows they're holding the winning card and is waiting for the right moment to lay it down. And the palace can feel it too. Because every institution built on secrecy fears one thing above all else: a witness who stops caring about the consequences. Someone who has already been humiliated, already been mocked, already been discarded. Someone who has nothing left to protect except the truth as they remember it. Sarah Ferguson fits that description perfectly. And so the tension grows, quietly, invisibly. While the public remains distracted by surface drama, something far more dangerous simmers underneath. Old alliances, old resentments, old knowledge that was never meant to resurface. And Meghan stands in the middle of it, realizing far too late that climbing to the top doesn't erase the steps behind you. It only makes them more visible when someone decides to point them out. Because in the end, this isn't about revenge. It isn't about jealousy. And it certainly isn't about love or friendship. It's about power. Who has it? Who lost it? And who is finally ready to remind everyone that they were never as powerless as they were made to seem. And if Sarah Ferguson does choose to speak fully, freely, without restraint, it won't just be a story about Meghan. It will be a reminder of something the palace has tried desperately to forget: that fairy tales are fragile, that silence has a shelf life, and that the people you step over on the way up are often the ones who know exactly how you got there. And this time, the woman holding the memory isn't asking for permission anymore. Asking for permission anymore. Asking for permission anymore. Asking